Broadcasting from Cincinnati, you're listening to the Ringside Reporter podcast. All the news from the world of boxing right here.
Well, I'm talking to you the way I want to talk to you.
Now, here's your host, Eric Lorda.
And we are live. Welcome to the Ringside Reporter Show, where we talk about the latest boxing news. If it's related to boxing, we're going to talk about it right here. My name is Eric Lorda, and I'm here with my co-host, Joe Habib. We got a great show for you today, and if you want to call and ask questions, 323-870-3857. And tonight, a big fight may have been signed, and we'll have all the info on it. More on that later. So, but let's get started first. Beeb, I don't know why people don't listen to us. You and I both had Dmitry Bivol this weekend. I heard a lot of people picking Zurdo. I said, there's no way Zurdo's going to win this fight. You said this too. We tried to explain it to him on the round table. We tried to explain it. Every person that I met, I'm like, guys, you got it. You're sleeping on Beval. If you're taking Zurdo, you're sleeping on Beval. You know what I mean? Beeb, did you have that same problem this weekend?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just feel something in your bones, and it is what it is. People just don't want to deal with the reality of the situation in life.
They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Guys, listen, it's real simple. You want to bet, you want to make money, you listen to Beeb and me. That's it.
Yeah. Only that front runner Robbie picked Ramirez.
Zurdo. Yeah, he picked of all things, the dumbest pick this weekend was Zurdo Ramirez. That's why we took Beval. And now look at us. Unbeaten.
I mean, these guys want to dismiss Beval and say he only beat Canelo just because he was bigger. Well, Zurdo weighed about what, 250 in the ring last?
Much bigger. Yeah, he looked like he was he was like heavyweight last night.
Zurdo should have been in the WWE. He was so big, man. I mean, come on.
Huge. Should have been wrestling Jake Paul. I mean, unbelievable. Tell you what, unbelievable. Dmitry Bivol versus Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. Dmitry Bivol dominated this fight. This fight was completely one-sided, guys. Bivol wins by unanimous decision, scores 118-110 and 117-111 twice. I'll be honest with you, I thought the 117-111 was a little wide, or was a little narrow. I had the fight scored 119-109. I expected so much more out of Zurdo in this fight, man. He never got anything going. He never looked like he hurt Bivol. He didn't look stronger. He just looked like he didn't even belong in there last night. He didn't go to the body. He didn't apply pressure. Zero pressure. He was pressured. You know what I mean? Beeb, I'm watching this fight. I'm giving him a couple rounds, letting him come to life or whatever. Could be a slow starter. He got blasted in there. I mean, he was getting backed up the entire fight. Even in the mid rounds, when you're thinking, okay, he should be warmed, he's still getting backed up. And the other guys were saying, like, hey, what about this? You know, like we needed you to put some pressure on him and everything like that. Oh, wasn't hearing it. Did the same thing. And I've got a theory about this, Beeb. I got a theory about this. I think that in that second, I believe it was in that second or third round. Bivol clipped him. He clipped him he hit him with combinations all throughout the fight. But I think he got stunned. It was into that second or third round. He got stunned by a combination that was thrown. And you know what? I don't think he want to engage anymore. I really don't. And, I tell you, these guys, man, Bivol's got power. He's 175. He hits you flush, he can get rid of anybody. He can get rid of anybody in the division. And so can, anybody who's in 175 can get rid of any, you know what I mean? They can hit. They can all hit. They all have power, and I think he tasted that power last night, and that was a change. That was a game change for him. I think he was more cautious than we've ever seen him before, and he didn't go in. He didn't want to initiate any action. I mean, Bivol hit him flush all night long. It wasn't even really, if you saw one round, you saw them all. Yeah. He was constantly getting backed up. And, let's not overlook the fact that Bivol's definitely a superior boxer. We all knew that going in. But like I said, man, he's got power too. So
enough,
after the
power to
fight,
keep you honest. Yeah, he's got enough power.
yeah, exactly.
Can't just walk through the guy.
Yeah, you can't just walk through him. There's no way you're just going to be able to walk through him. He's too strong for that. So I tell you, man, it was one of those things, man. After looking at it, and I would have never thought that Zurdo, like I said, gets hit with some shots, and then that was it. You know what I mean? And his game plan just went out the window.
Here's the thing, man. The greatest fear that anyone could have, not only in boxing but in life, is the fear of the unknown, right? So when you're dealing with a guy where you don't know when the punches are coming, where the punches are coming, and how the punches are coming, basically what I'm saying is when you can't time the guy, and every time you make a move before you can execute your move, this guy's already getting off first, and he's one step ahead of you. Not even just one step ahead of you, 15 steps ahead of you, right? After a while, I use this analogy several times, even way back to the Rope-a-Dope radio days. It's like touching the hot stove. Every time you touch that hot stove, you get burnt. You don't want to touch that hot stove anymore. So every time you're getting ready to throw a punch and you're being hit before you can even uncork your punch, then you become a little bit gun shy, right? So if every move you make is being cut off at the pass, right? And Bivol does a lot of these things with just small, little, subtle movements, right? Just steps just enough around you, catches the shots, just is able to thread the needle like through the guard. Bivol just knows how to read his opponent so well in there. He knows how to dissect his opponent so well in there. And we go back to talking about gifted guys like who have that adaptive reactive ability, like Andre Ward. These guys that just their minds just work quicker than everyone
Boxing
else.
IQ. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's got that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that he's a special fighter. There's great fighters, but then
He certainly looks that way.
He's a special fighter. Being the bandwagon jumper that I am and the front runner that I am, I thought Better Beef would beat him. I may have to change my pick in favor of Bivol now after seeing this guy fight a couple times. He's the real deal.
Well, let's face it. Let's think about that fight for a minute. I mean, he's not outboxing Beval. Am I right? I mean, if this goes to a decision, he's not outboxing him. And let's just keep everything, no knockdowns, no nothing. If this just goes to a decision, there's no way he's beating him. None. You know?
Well,
Beval can hurt him. Beval can hurt him just like Better Beef can hurt him. Beval has more ways to win that fight. So he's got to be favored, right? And how old is Beval, or how old is Better Beef now?
37. He's going to be 38.
He's going to be like 30, 38 years old. You might as well be 90 in there.
Yeah.
He's not going to be faster. He's going to have trouble landing against that guy.
And remember on the roundtable when Joe Calix was giving us all those stats?
Yeah.
Those stats came to life on Saturday, didn't they?
You know
he's
what?
He's an incredibly gifted defensive fighter. I'm going to say something extremely bold, and obviously he doesn't have the same resume as this person, but he's rivaling Mayweather right now in terms of defensive ability. They don't fight the same way.
No.
But at this point in time in his career, he gets hit. He's getting even hit less than Mayweather.
Well, I'll tell you what's impressive about it is he stands right in front of him, and he was the aggressor the entire night last night, not getting hit. And you know what? You look at his box rec, he's never had a split decision. Not even against Canelo. I mean, no split decisions. I mean, it's all been unanimous. He doesn't lose those rounds.
Yeah.
There's something there, man. Yeah, it's a different kind of guy. And like I said, you guys know how high it was coming in with Ramirez coming into this. I mean, I didn't think there was a chance he was going to lose. I thought he was too big, too strong, going to impose that will, go to the body. And you know what? After the first few rounds, after the first 4 rounds, I said, there's no strength difference here. Zurdo should be pushing this guy around the ring, and he's not. Ramirez should be walking this guy down by now, and he's not.
But once again,
it's that power. It's that power.
Well, the punches hurt more when you're not able to brace yourself for them and you can't time them. A lot of times, even a fighter can see a punch coming at the tail end of it, and he's able to brace himself, roll with it.
Yeah.
can't do that with Bivol's punches. You
So
can't do that.
fast. And everything is like perfect. Everything he does is like perfect. Everything he throws, everything.
Short, compact, accurate, flush. Give him just this much, and he'll thread the needle with anything. He's just an incredibly gifted fighter. Incredibly gifted fighter.
Jerry's in the chat now. Jerry's in the chat. He's still harboring a grudge here. We picked Ramirez wrong again. Oh, come on, man.
Jerry,
let it go, son.
The thing about predicting boxing matches, right? If you do it every week, you're going to be wrong 50% of the time. That's why the casinos are in business right now. And that's why when Eric and I fill out our W-2s at the end of the year, we don't list professional gambler, professional boxing gambler as our profession, because if it was so easy being right, I hate to attack you, but we asked you, right, who is going to win versus Golovkin and Canelo, and you basically sat on the fence.
He didn't say either. Yeah, he didn't pick one.
You were like, well, I don't know. I could see Golovkin winning, but Canelo's
he sounded like the announcer making a pick or something like that. You know,
Canelo's gonna get, he's gonna get he's gonna win by robbery by scorecard. Canelo didn't win by robbery. Actually, the judges had the fight closer for Golovkin than they should have. So it was the other
way more closer than they should have. Yeah,
you're a Monday morning quarterback. You didn't even. You were on the show last week, and all you were arguing about was fights that already happened. You didn't even make a pick.
Beval Zurdo, this is from Jerry, numerically dominated by Beval. Fight was competitive throughout. The fight was not competitive. Yeah, I don't know what it was. Only competitive by the fact that Zurdo put gloves on and got in the ring. That was the only competition he gave. That fight was not close. It was not competitive. That was a shellacking.
In Jerry's mind, every fight is competitive.
Just because you get in the ring doesn't mean it's competitive, son.
He gives people participation trophies. That's fine.
Some Rondo says that he's going to wait till I pick the fight, then he's going to pick the opposite. Actually, I think that's a great strategy given my track record for the last few fights.
Did Jerry make a prediction last week on this fight?
I don't know that he did. I don't know. I honestly I don't know.
I know for a fact he did not. But yet he wants to brag about it. He's telling we got the pick wrong, right? And Jerry, again,
you clearly have never competed.
Never competed. You see how there's a reason why this nose is crooked, because I have competed. Never said I was good, but I did. I have competed. Yes.
The fight, Jerry, listen, man, I like you. The fight was not competitive, though. Was not competitive.
He picked Beval by decision. Not on this podcast, you didn't.
Everybody picks Beval. Let me tell you what. Today, everybody picked Beval, including us. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was disappointing to watch Zurdo in that fight. And somebody said Zurdo equals Chavez Jr. 2.0. Listen, and I don't feel that way, but he did. That was a Chavez Jr. like performance. I'll give you that.
Yeah. When Jerry calls in, I'm just gonna let him go today. I'm not even. I don't have the.
Well, he hung up on you last week. I think he got scared. I don't know.
He's gonna make me laugh too hard one of these days, and I'm gonna rupture my spleen. I can't deal with this.
You're gonna rupture your spleen.
Yeah,
he said he's gonna call in, so we'll be waiting with bated breath for that.
I'm calling.
All right, so let's talk about this. So what is next for Beval? I mean, this was a complete whitewash here. You know who's got to feel bad after this is De La Hoya. De La Hoya promoting Zurdo. I mean, what's going on with his guys?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, Zurdo will probably get another title shot against someone else eventually down the road. I mean, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. So Beval now, Better Beav is going to fight Anthony Yard. I think he blasts Yard.
Yeah.
I think he beats Yard. But that still puts Beval in limbo here. So where does he go now? Does he go and try to get Canelo next, or what does he do?
Probably going to fight. You know, if you listen to the interview, he said, what I want and what my team wants are two different things, but we're going to have to talk and we're going to have to come to an agreement. I'm sure he's going to be advised to take the Canelo fight, because who else is he going to fight while he's waiting for better beef to dispatch?
Well, you'd be silly not to take the Canelo fight.
Does Yard have a shot against better beef?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to disrespect. I don't want to disrespect Yard, because I mean he's a competitor. I don't want to be dismissive of Yard.
I think he's got a shot. I don't think it's a great shot. But yeah, I think so. Listen, man, I mean, he comes up with these game plans. You know, I tell you, we've all seen it before. When we got a fighter that, you know, that we say, man, there's no way, we don't think he's going to win. We don't think, he's good, but the corner comes in with a great game plan and he executes it to a T. Anything can happen, man. Yeah. And look at last night. Like I said, I believe that Ramirez's game plan was thwarted by that power. I really do.
Yeah.
You know,
not to change the subject, but Jerry was the leading candidate for caller of the year. And then after that call,
what is wrong with you?
I'm just telling you what happened. It has nothing to do with me or anything else.
Stop.
But after that call last week, my email was flooded with people telling me there's no way you can give him caller of the year after that debacle of a call he put forth last week. He was the leading candidate for caller of the year. After
he usually came up with sound calls. I got to be honest. He usually comes up with sound calls.
He ruined it for himself last week. I mean, I just got flooded with emails. I even got death threats saying, if you make this guy caller of the year, we're coming for you.
I actually sent those 2 death threats to you.
So I don't know what you want to do. I don't know what you want to do with this one. We may have to talk to the producer or something, but I don't know if we can give this guy caller of the year. I know you had your heart set on it, but.
You know how it is. Aaron Daly, it's a good point. Yard has a puncher's chance and is ridiculously athletic and is durable. I think he has a good chance. I think he's got a shot. Like I said, man, I do think he has a shot. I don't think it's a great shot. I wouldn't bet on him. I wouldn't favor him. But again, man, I think it's a good shot. I'll tell you what, man. Beval, with the way he fought last night, there's no way he's just got Canelo's number. There's no way he's beaten Canelo in this fight. If he rematches, there's no way Canelo's winning that fight. That's easy work for him.
There's 2 sides of the argument here. I don't want to make excuses, but do you think Canelo was 100% going into that fight? Do you think that maybe he was burnt out physically from fighting so much?
I don't care. I mean, there's nothing in that fight that showed me that Canelo can beat Bivol. Nothing. That's another fight that was not close.
So At the very
I don't least, understand why they had it so close. What was it, 115, 113?
Yeah, 115, 113. At the very least, he could be more competitive, but even in being more competitive, as Jerry would say, it's still not going to get him. It's still not going to enable him to win the fight. Yeah, no. It's hard to see Yard winning that fight.
It is.
It's a tough ask.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But, and I'll tell you this. That Beterbiev is 37 years old. He'll be 38, in a couple months or something like that, or very soon.
Very soon.
Listen, he's at the time where you get out of bed and you just don't have it anymore. That could happen at any point from here on. That he gets in that ring, he gets out of bed, he gets in that ring, and he just doesn't have it.
I agree.
We've seen it a million times. Sure. Sure. So I tell you what, man, it's that's where the mystery for me comes in, is that we all know that Beterbiev should wipe this guy. We all know he should win, but he's 37.
Yeah.
And that's ancient in this sport. That is a senior citizen in this sport. Which is why I would favor Beval. This is why I would favor Beval over Beterbiev right now. Because of that age difference, because of that gap, because of that, the speed, everything else. He boxes too well. He just boxes too well.
Yeah. I got you.
So where do we put Beval if he goes and he takes Canelo fight next? Now here's a scenario. Canelo's at what does he got the belts at 168, correct? 168, right?
Correct.
What if he drops down and takes all those belts from him at 168? Is he then and then he goes back up to 175 to beat Beterbiev and unify those titles, is he then the pound for pound guy? Canelo's not going to come up in weight. He's not going to come to 175 and fight him again. He'll have to go down to 168. I mean, let's think about it. I mean, who right now you could say Terrence Crawford is the best because he's unified at weight divisions. He's won titles in all his weight divisions. He fought good guys. You can't say he hasn't fought good guys. He's fought good guys. So I don't know how you can put Bivol over Terrence Crawford, but could you put him over Errol Spence? Yeah. Could you put him over Naoya Inoue? Yeah, I think so. Maybe not. Because Inoue has, done the titles in different divisions. He's won that tournament.
Unfortunately for Inoue, he's going to be discriminated against because he's in a smaller weight.
Because he's small and nobody knows his opponents. That's a big deal.
That may be unfair to him, but
yeah, I agree.
It's sad.
Usyk's also in that category. Usyk's always also in that category. Another brilliant fighter that may not get the nod.
He's a great fighter. Why
he's not ranked higher than he is in the pound for pound list, I don't know. Why is Errol Spence ranked so high on that pound for pound list?
I mean, he unified 3 of the belts. It's tough.
I mean, but he's only fought, you know what I mean, at welterweight. That's it. Yeah. He hasn't gone anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I'm saying if Bivol drops down in weight, 168, unifies there, goes back up and fights Beterbiev in his next fight, and unifies there.
He's an instant Hall of Famer. If he does those 2 things, no matter what he does for the rest of his career, he's an instant Hall of Famer.
Instant. First ballot, right?
First ballot.
It's gotta be.
I expedite the process and I see if we can vote him in fucking next week if he does that.
Is there a better fighter right now? I mean, that you could think of boxing wise, a better boxer, stylistically, the way he moves with angles, the way he puts himself into positions to hit and not get hit. Is there a better boxer right now?
Well, statistically, no. Statistically, no. No. I mean, without question, he's the best defensive fighter in the sport of boxing right now.
King KO says Bivol's not pound for pound. He never fought outside of 175. I get you, but if he goes down to 168 and grabs those titles from Canelo, say they rematch, and because he's going to go down to 168, because I think he thinks, I've heard that's a better weight for him anyway. He likes that weight anyway. So I don't think he'll have any problems making that weight. If he goes down there, beats Canelo, comes back up, beats Bivol, he's got to be pound for pound, right? I mean, how are you going to even argue it at that point? Because he'll be unifying all of them. I mean,
you can make a case for it.
You can make a case for it right now. Yeah, you can make a case for it right now. I really believe that. You can make a case for it right now. Because again, you can't tell me he's better like Spence. What's the difference? Again, if he drops down in weight, because Spence has stayed at the same weight. He's not moved up or down. So if this guy moves down, moves back up, that's a wrap, son. That's what pound for pound is supposed to be, right? Like if I weigh 147, if whatever weight I go to, I'm winning. I'm winning that fight.
You're asking the wrong person what pound for pound is supposed to be because I'm not a big pound for pound fan, but I understand like who are the best fighters in the sport of boxing. I know who the guys are at the top. I'm not really crazy about pound for pound lists because again they are very subjective.
All subjective. For
the most part, everyone usually has the same 5 guys at the top. You know what I mean? Regardless of the order you may have them in, most guys do have the same guys in their top 5. They may not have them in the exact order as each other, but they still have like pretty much the same guys.
So King KO always also agrees with us. He said, of course, but not now. Bivol is not pound for pound. Right. I'm not saying he's pound for pound right now. I'm saying that number one, he should be ranked pound for pound right now. But number 2, again, if he drops down, beats Canelo, comes back up, beats Beterbiev, I'm asking you, is there anybody who can compete with that pound for pound wise? I don't see it.
No, that would solidify him as the best boxer on the planet if he did all those things.
Without question.
In my opinion, once again, it is a subjective thing, right?
It's a thing though. Nobody can tell who's right and who's wrong.
Everyone has different criterias for like a lot of times people really they minimize the eye test and the eye test is a big part of the criteria for myself. Even though a lot of people, they dismiss the eye test and, oh, that's just
Well, well, I'll tell you this. When Floyd Mayweather was ranked number 1 pound for pound, my pound for pound number 1 was Andre Ward. I said, this is the guy, because Floyd Mayweather to me is not where he was. He's on a downswing. He's not where he was. Andre Ward is beating top guys night after night, man. Every time he goes out there, he's beating him decisively. And that was my version of the eye test. You know what I mean? Devin Haney is another one. He's my eye test. I like what I see in him. Shakur Stevenson, same way. So, yeah, man.
For me, the one thing I like about Terrence Crawford is he's just on another level when it comes to versatility. He's shown us so many different ways to win fights. He's able to go, be southpaw, be orthodox. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside, mid-range. He can outbox guys. He can counterpunch. He can be an offensive stalker. He can even, like, he was in there with Jeff Horn, and he was out muscling Jeff Horn on the inside, and Jeff Horn was supposedly the bigger guy. He was beating Jeff Horn at his own game in that fight. You know what I mean? Jeff Horn was trying to get physical with him, and Terrence Crawford wasn't having it. So this guy has the ability to win in so many different ways. He's just such a complete fighter. But once again, you can argue that these other guys have, some of these other guys have probably better wins on their record than he does. But again, it's just so tough. It's so hard to quantify this and assess this. Everyone's gonna have different arguments and different points of criteria in this. So I can't argue. I can't argue too much against everyone's list, because everyone has a reason for picking who they pick, and who's to say I'm wrong and they're right, or they're right and I'm wrong. So
yeah,
it's just tough.
Boxing with Frank Bay says, arguing pound for pound is all subjective. That's what we've been saying. So stop arguing it. You make yourself look stupid. Well, what would you like us to talk about, Mr. Frank Bay? What would you like us to talk about? What we had to eat last night? Come on.
I mean,
get with the program here.
Why does it make anyone look stupid if we're having a discussion? Like, why can't we talk about something? Like, I don't understand.
Tired of hearing about it.
You're tired of hearing it. I mean, just because you don't like something, like, I'm going to use a Jerry phrase. Do you speak for the rest of the world?
Listen, I don't like red cars. I don't get them. I don't get red cars. But a lot of people like red cars. You know what I mean? So
can I walk into an ice cream parlor and say, I hate coffee ice cream, take this off the menu because I don't like it? No, because someone else is going to buy it. And I do hate coffee ice cream, by the way.
Did you ever go to those ice cream places that have weird flavors of ice cream, like wasabi ice cream or like pumpkin coconut mango ice cream or something like that? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the worst place. Listen, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Ice cream is good. You don't have to put like different crazy flavors together and try to market your own thing. Take a good flavor and put chocolate in it. That's all you have to do, or put strawberry in it, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the Showtime card here, man. So David Morell Jr. versus, I'm going to butcher his name, Eidos Yarbosanuli. David Morell wins a TKO over Eidos Yarbosanuli in the 12th round. There was 30 seconds, Beeb, left in the fight before the stoppage. It reminded me a lot of the Meldrick Taylor Julio Cesar Chavez when he had 30 seconds. He stopped the fight with 2 seconds left, but I think he was knocked down with about 30 left. This was a good stoppage, though. He knocked him down twice in that 12th round, and he was leading. I mean, he had to win just about every round. I'll tell you what, Morell Jr. looked very good last night. And this was a tough guy he was in there with. This wasn't a cakewalk. This guy was undefeated. Tough guy, can take a shot, took a lot of shots. B, what were your thoughts on him?
Well, a lot of people are, they have questions about David Morell's resume, and as well they should. but he is fighting guys who are in the top 10. They may not be at the top of the top 10, but they're in the top 10. They're at the bottom portion of the top 10. This gentleman, I'm not going to even attempt to try to, pronounce his name either. I don't want to. If you're going to butcher it, I'm going to do.
Boston Newley. Your Boston Newley is what I'm reading.
Okay, your boss. Okay, well, your Boston Newley, right? He was a solid competitor. He's a tough guy, like you said, is undefeated. But David Morell really showed us something. He just beat this guy from pillar to post. And the thing about David Morell too is the way he's able to position his body and create openings for himself and just squeeze off those shots. The way he was able to kind of like make that step off to his right and just throw that right hook, kind of like a half hook, a half uppercut, like a 45-degree type hybrid type right hook. The way he made that move, he just stepped off and just boom, real quickly, how he was able to put himself position, set his feet, and get that shot off. Once again, that shows a degree of being special when you can do something like that. And this guy, you just look at this guy and you can say, this guy is a special talent. He has a lot of potential. Obviously, he still has to prove that potential by fighting the fights. But watching this guy fight, and I'm visualizing how he would do against guys like Plant David Benavidez, and even Canelo for that matter. He's a southpaw. He's a boxer puncher. He's quick. He's explosive. He's got great movement, right? This guy is a problem. This guy is a problem, and based off of what I've seen, I think I'm not sure if he could beat all those guys, but I think he can definitely hang with all those guys. And you have to question, you can't just sit there and say, well, Plant would beat him or Benavidez would beat him, because you'd have to think about that. You'd have to think about that. This guy's got a decorated amateur career. So I think he could hang with any of those guys. Whether or not he beats them or not, that's another question, but he should be in the conversation. He's a problem.
They're moving him fairly quick.
Yeah.
He's a very good fighter. Don't get me wrong. He looks like he has about 20 fights. I mean, if you look at him box, I mean, he looks like he's ready, but they are moving him fairly quick, and that is kind of concerning.
Yeah. I think he would beat Plant. I'm not sure if he'd beat Benavidez yet, but I would pick him to beat Plant, in my opinion.
Well, I would pick Benavidez to beat him, but I mean, well, you know how my track record goes last couple weeks, so.
Yeah. I'm picking Benavidez to beat Plant as well.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect to Plant, but I just think that
Benavidez is just a big guy, man.
Yeah. I think if guys who can bang can give Plant problems. Even Ustadagi was giving Plant problems in like the last couple of rounds of that fight, and he had him kind of holding on for dear life in certain spots towards the end.
Yeah. On the undercard there, Brian Mendoza versus Jason Rosario. Mendoza was actually a late sub here. He wins via 5th round KO over Jason Rosario. After the fight, Rosario said, "I'm done. I'm done."
Yeah.
And somebody said that your Boston Newley was still in the hospital. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I just kind of did a quick search on it or whatever. I knew he was taken to the hospital. I haven't heard any updates on him, so I'm assuming he's probably okay. We would have definitely heard otherwise.
Yeah. Well, at least Jason Rosario can say he was a world champion. He achieved the dream of becoming world champion. Not every fighter can do that. So, he's had a good career.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Nothing to hang your head about, man. I mean, I'll tell you that.
This doesn't last forever, right?
Theodore Shirkakazin versus Nathaniel Gallimore. Shirkazin wins by unanimous decision, 97-93, 99-91, and 100-90. Andre Durrell beat Unieski Gonzalez via 10th round TKO, which is kind of surprising to me, I'll be honest with you.
It's a good win.
Surprising. That's a very good win.
Solid win for him.
What's that?
That's a solid win for him.
That is a huge win for him. I mean, that puts him right back on the map.
Yeah.
Especially with Gonzalez, man. That's a heck of a win.
Yeah, it's a good win.
A heck of a win, man.
Yeah.
All right. let's go to the phones. Before we go to the schedule, let's go to the phones here. Jerry is on hold. And we're going to bring him in just a second here, and then we'll get to Robert. So let's bring in Jerry real quick. 410, you're live.
Where to start? Where to start with you? Oh, Lordy Lord. Let me first start by saying this. I'm here to have a civil debate. I'm not going to yell over anybody. I'm not going to have to interrupt to be heard. I'll talk, you listen. You talk, I'll listen. How's that?
That works for me. I mean, I've always listened. Beeb, does that work for you?
Absolutely, Jerry. We're going to do it your way this week. How's that?
Okay, good. This way we can be heard.
Okay.
Let me just start first by saying, last week, I was talking about Canelo Golovkin 3 being a competitive fight. As soon as I said it was competitive, you guys flipped out and fell off your chairs and got on the floor.
I stayed on my chair.
And needed oxygen. Okay, you, right away, what was the scoring? What was the scoring? You start yelling about what was the scoring for the fight. Now, I got a feeling that your buddy there knew what the scoring was, but he didn't say. He gave his own personal scorecard. But you Googled or whatever, and you conveniently came back and said, the scoring was 8-4. 8-4.
Right.
That was the score.
That was the score.
Right. But the problem is that was one judge's card. One judge had it 116 to 112, 8-4.
Right.
The two judges in the majority had it 115, 113. You cherry picked
It's
the
one
one
round.
judge in the minority.
It's one
Pardon?
round. It's one round.
One judge had it 116, 112,
Right.
8-4. What you said.
Right.
You said the scoring was 8-4.
Right.
That was not the scoring.
But you didn't even know
Two
the scoring,
judges
though.
in the majority. No, I did know the scoring, but I was too far deep into the point that I was trying to make to even bother to correct you when you get it. But the scoring is a matter of public knowledge. It was announced in the ring,
Sure.
and anyone can Google and see what the scoring was. It wasn't 8-4, as you stated. And like I said,
But it was
two of
8-4. The
scored
judge
it.
scored at 8-4. Who needs to score at 8-4?
That was one judge.
How did
Do we
you
not
score
know
the
that
fight? How did,
judges had,
okay, well, how did you score the
do
fight?
we not know that a fight had three judges? Or are we just going to take the one that favors our argument?
I'm only going to take the one that favors my argument. You know how I rule.
Well, that's what you did, though. You
That's what I-
stated that
right.
the
That's what I
scoring was
said.
8-4.
Sure.
Right.
So how
but
did
it
you
was-
have it scored, though? How did you have it scored?
Well, as long as we got that confirmed. 116 to 112 on one judge's card, 115, 113 on two judges' cards. That's the official scoring. I wouldn't bother to bring it up, but you are the one who right away said, what was the scoring? What was the scoring? Well,
So?
that's what the official scoring was. Okay,
I gave it to you
scored
last week.
116, 112. Pardon?
You scored at 116,
No,
112.
again, it's very verifiable what you said last week. The show's still available. I watched it.
Okay, just wait a minute here. You scored the fight 116, 112?
Yeah.
Then what are we arguing about?
We're not arguing about nothing. I'm stating facts. You stated an inaccuracy, and I'm correcting your inaccuracy. I'm giving you the full judges panel, the three judges cards. You gave one card, one judging, and stated it emphatically.
So
it's
what?
very verifiable because the show's still available to
But
watch.
who cares?
You say the scoring was 8-4. Well, I mean, listen, no, we're going to talk conjecture, we're going to talk facts. I'm just correcting you on what is factual. The scoring is public knowledge. That was announced in the ring.
Jerry, I got to be honest here. This sounds a lot like sour grapes, man. If you had the fight scored 116, 112.
Like you don't want to just admit that. It sounds more to me that you just don't want to admit that you were wrong about what you stated. But I'll move forward.
But I
because
wasn't,
it's
because
verifiable.
the score was 116 to 112, was it not?
Was it one judge that scored the fight?
Yes. You also scored the fight the same way I did and the same way the judge did. So let's take that. Okay. Let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, wait a second. I let you talk. Now let me talk. Let's take that for a minute. Now you said that this was a, quote unquote competitive fight, which 8 rounds to 4 is not really that competitive. Am I right?
I think
No, not in my opinion.
Do you thought the fight last night was competitive? The Beval fight. The Zurdo Ramirez fight.
Absolutely.
Oh, Jesus.
Absolutely.
Jerry.
Jerry,
Let's defer because somebody's right and someone's wrong about what I just stated.
Why do you have to
right
be? Why is
you're
it
wrong?
Why is it so important to you to be right?
Well,
why is it that important?
Of fact, right?
Jerry, let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. I put my face on here.
Scoring.
Let me tell you this. I put my face on here every single week, and I say ridiculous stuff. I say factual stuff sometimes, but either way, I always say I picked Beval or I picked Zurdo last week or whatever. I've been picking him since the fight was made. Came on here, admit I'm wrong. Yeah, okay, so what?
Well,
why is it so important to you to be right?
To admit it.
Jerry,
we already
this
knew
goes,
we were
let me tell you this.
Jerry,
this goes deeper. Let me tell you this. This is a character thing with you. This goes deeper than this conversation. I'm being serious. This is a character thing because
when you get your philosophy degree, then I'll pay attention to it.
Jerry, I have a master's degree. When you feel the need to be right all the time, that's a character issue, my man.
And all the time. You are wrong about that. That's the bottom line.
I'm wrong all the time.
Yes, I was wrong.
I am wrong
then just
all the time.
Admit
what I just admitted. I'm wrong all the time.
When I said the fight was competitive,
it wasn't.
You immediately wanted to know what the scorecard.
And I gave you the scorecard, and it wasn't competitive.
Jerry, can I just jump in? Jerry, can I jump in
here? Hold on. Let me jump in.
Let me jump in real quick. I'm gonna give you some credit, and I'm gonna be fair to you. The argument wasn't about how the fight was scored, because you're right, 150%. The judges had this as a competitive fight, but just like two of the judges
Beeb had it as a competitive fight.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, the majority. 2 out of the 3, which is the majority, and I guess the argument that Eric and I are trying to make is just like when Canelo Golovkin won was a draw, right? I guess the argument we're trying to make is what the judges scored that fight was not really an accurate description on how the majority of the people scored that fight and what the majority of the people saw. Right. You know what I'm saying? So on paper, yeah, that's going to go down as a competitive fight, right? Because 115 to 113 is a close fight. But I guess my argument was last week was objectively watching that fight, and the people that were watching it with me, and all the people that were talking about the fight, and all the YouTubers and everything, right? No one, very few people, if any. I'm not going to say no one. Like there's another guy on here that actually scored the fight a draw, and that's fine. But we are saying just by watching that fight, it did not look like a competitive fight at all. But it was scored as a competitive fight. So you're right. You're 100% right in that. My argument and Eric's argument was always that we disagreed with those judges. Now, whether that matters or not is not important, because obviously it doesn't matter because we're not officially scoring the fight. But just by looking at something, right? I gave Golovkin 2 rounds. The majority of people that watched the fight, I think, gave him like 3 rounds tops.
Maybe.
A lot of people scored the fight 10-2, 9-3. You know what I'm saying? Now, I scored the Bradley fight 115 to 113, just like the judges did. But to this day, people still say, Beeb, you must be blind. How could you have done that? So there's just certain instances when you watch a fight, and not only certain instances, many instances when you watch a fight, and it just appears that the judges got it wrong. Like when Canelo fought Beval, all 3 judges had that fight 115 to 113.
It wasn't that close.
Nobody agreed with those scorecards. So Now, in fairness, Jerry, if you agreed with those scorecards, that's your right to do so. You know what I'm saying? That's your right to do so. I think where you struck a nerve last week was when you were basically attacking. I'm not going to use the word attack, but you were overly critical of us for saying the fight was not competitive. And that, and then because of how overly critical you were of us, it, it was natural for us to come back at you and like, well, you're going to criticize us. What about you? You know what I'm saying? Because you said it so confidently and unequivocally, like it was a statement that could be unopposed, and it wasn't really that clear cut. Like you have to at least concede the point that there's a strong argument against claiming that fight was competitive because the majority of the people that watched it said it wasn't competitive. Now you don't have to agree with the majority, but the stance you took last week was as if your opinion was the majority because you were so definite and so unequivocal in your opinion. Your opinion you felt as though was so much stronger than everyone else's opinion, or at least that's the impression I got. So that's why we both came at you, or even I came at you the way I came at you. Because I disagree with people's scorecards all the time. Many times my scorecard is in the minority, right? I've watched fights before and I would say this fight is close, and other people will say, no, it's not close. And I say, oh, we have a disagreement. But you were just so like set in your opinion, and you felt as though there was no opposition to your opinion, or there was not a thought there was no there's no one could see it any other way than than the way that you saw it, in other words. And maybe you didn't mean that, but that's the way it came off. Okay?
Okay, well, the first thing is I said that I thought the fight was competitive. Okay, yeah, I stated it as a matter of fact because that's how I feel. When I said the fight was competitive, you guys started getting outlandish and saying that you needed oxygen, I needed to be drug tested. It's like it was the most outlandish thing to be said. That's what you said. Now your partner there immediately started asking for the scoring, not me, him.
So
he
what?
Started asking for the official.
I told you, this guy always needs to be right.
Scoring. Well,
Jerry,
we got to reiterate because things are being misunderstood. You asked for the official scoring. Then you Googled the scoring and you cherry picked one judge that was in the minority and announced that as the scoring.
So what?
Okay, so
I gave one score.
Well, but listen. Well, but here, because that it all pertains to the point, and if we're speaking a matter of fact, then we got to stick to the facts. The scoring that you announced was not the accurate scoring. It was one judge. One judge. You took the minority judge and you went with that, which is coincidentally how I scored the fight, 116 to 112. But you ignored the other two judges. But
so
to move forward,
I'll say it again. So what?
116 to 112.
Yeah, but Jerry,
okay,
you ignored the other two judges.
Matter,
Jerry,
Facts
you ignored Jerry, you ignored the other two judges too. You know why? Because you didn't bring it up last week. You're bringing it up. You're bringing it up now, Jerry. So why did you ignore the other two judges? Your immediate. Wait a minute, Jerry. Wait a minute, Jerry. The facts do matter.
Facts matter, buddy.
Jerry.
Understand that. Facts matter.
Answer my question, Jerry. Jerry, answer my question, sir. Why did you not come back at Eric and saying, well, okay, that's one card. What about?
Because he had a whole week to sleep on it. That's why.
The point that I was making.
Because he had a whole week to sleep on it.
Why did you not bring it up last week, Jerry?
Because he had a whole week to sleep on it.
Wrong that I had a week to sleep on it. It's still a matter of fact, whether it was this week or last week.
He was probably thinking Wednesday. He was probably thinking last Wednesday, like, I got him now. I'm going to come back. I'm going to get him. Because two judges had it 115, 113.
Jerry, so the scorecards
did have... I'm sorry that the facts matter, and I had to correct you, but it is what it is.
Jerry, you're the one that said the fight last night was close, not me.
Anyone can go view the show.
You're the fight that said last night was close.
What it was.
Well, where's your show at?
But Jerry, here's the thing.
Moving forward, I scored the fight 116 to 112. So let's take that card and say this.
What?
At 116, 112, that's 8 rounds to 4,
Jerry, you
right?
didn't challenge. Jerry, you didn't challenge it last week.
Why are we talking
Jerry,
about Canelo's card?
Jerry,
He
Jerry,
didn't
you
fight
waited
yesterday.
Jerry, you waited a whole week to bring that up. You know why? Because at the time when you were making your argument, you didn't even know.
He didn't have it. That's why.
Jerry,
Jerry,
you
have
didn't.
it. That's why.
Jerry, at the time you made your argument,
I
let's be honest. Let's be honest, Jerry. At the time you made your argument, did you know that the other two judges had a 115?
It's still right. It's still factual. So go ahead and say what you
A
gotta
week
say,
later,
but you can't
he
change
comes
Jerry,
back with this a week later in a debate.
Jerry,
Come on, son.
Jerry,
like
Jerry,
you gotta be fast, baby. You gotta be fast.
But Jerry, just answer this
I'd
question.
rather be right.
Jerry, just answer this question. Did you know last week? Did you know last week the other two judges scored the fight 115 and 113? Yes or no?
Did you listen 2 minutes ago when I told you I knew what the scoring was when he said that? We were in the middle of a debate. I didn't have time to stop and make that point.
Well, if that was going to be the point, you were going to, but you had a week to come back and you made that point. That's the lame point you came back with.
All I'm telling you, Jerry, can I?
Jerry, that's the first point.
I'm trying to help you
You
here, Jerry.
don't like the truth, but what can I do?
You want to listen to BB? He's trying to help you, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you here. If you were to say, if you said,
you do. Trust me, you do, because you're getting decimated right now.
Jerry, can I say something to you?
Oh, I see. Right.
Jerry, can I just say something to you, please? If you came back last week and you said to Eric, okay, you had it 116 and 112, but the other two judges had it 115 and 113. Right then and there, Eric, that tells you that was a close fight. That would have been checkmate for you, and I would have tipped the king. But the whole argument, basically, because judging as you said last week, is subjective, correct? So factually, those
I didn't
scorecards.
ask for the judging. He did.
Okay, but Jerry, can we at least admit this point? Factually, that's
probably not. But
can we agree on this point, Jerry? The 115 and 113 scorecards reflected the judges scored that as a close fight. So officially, it was looked upon as a close fight. But as people who watch the sport of boxing, do we have the right to disagree with the judges' scorecards? Yes or no?
That happens all the time.
Okay. So I guess the argument wasn't that the fight was scored as a close fight. The argument was we thought it wasn't. And your immediate response. Wait a minute. You know where you set off the argument, Jerry? When you tried to discredit Eric's opinion, when Eric said the fight wasn't close, and you said, well, that's coming from a guy who said Canelo was gonna knock him out. Hey, you were wrong about that. Like, so you were trying to discredit Eric, and you were very condescending in the way you presented your point.
Yes, you were.
So because of the way you
guys weren't
after you initiated the condescension. You drew like Sylvester Stallone said, you drew first blood.
Right.
And Eric,
so let's get back to the fight. I'll tell you what. Let's get to the fight yesterday.
That's another matter of debate. But let's take the 116, 112.
I don't want to talk about. Listen, I don't want to talk about Canelo versus Triple G anymore. I want to talk about the fight last night.
Oh, I see.
Because
I see.
you said this fight was close or competitive last night. Please elaborate on this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since we're all fight aficionados and we've been watching fights since before we were born.
Sure.
Have you never watched a fight where the rounds are extremely close, but one fighter edges the round because it's extremely close? Maybe one punch separates the difference between who won that round and who lost it. Sometimes it's the punch stats are even, but you got to score the round. So maybe you favor the guy, fighter A, because he was coming forward. Something as little as that, and he was the one coming forward. The fight goes the distance, 12 rounds, and you edge fighter A 9 rounds. But each round, you edge him only by a piece.
So what was
numerically at the end of the fight? Numerically at the end of the fight, fighter A wins wide, but the fight was competitive throughout because he only won those rounds. And if you've watched boxing, like you say, you've not just seen some fight list, you've seen dozens of fights like this. The commentators will be saying, the judges got their hands full. These rounds are very close. They're hard to separate. This is a prime example of how a fight can go the distance.
We understand how the fight can be. We understand how the fight can be close. We got it. We understand that. I get it. I've seen fights like that before. Last night was not one of those fights, though. That's what I'm asking you about. So stop deflecting and talk to me about the fight last night.
Competitive is subjective. I'll be the first to admit.
I don't know that it is.
The term competitive is a subjective term.
I don't know that it is.
You see, so there's no right, there's no wrong there. But the point I'm making still stands in that the scenario I just presented to you represents a perfect case scenario where two competitors are competing and the fight's competitive, but one guy wins the majority of the rounds.
How was Ramirez being competitive last night?
One punch.
How was Ramirez being competitive last night? Because I gave him one round.
Well,
and all the rounds were
okay, right. But again, you're going by the rounds. Now, if you was to ask the fighter, if you was to ask Morell, I would bet anything that he would say.
We're not talking about the Morell fight.
That guy is a hell of a competitor. He's a hell of a competitor, and it was a competitive fight. A fight going the distance by nature, just on its own, has an element of competitiveness just by the fundamental fact that it went the distance. Because if it was non-competitive, it wouldn't have went the distance. Somebody would have stopped it. You see? Now,
tell me how Ramirez. Listen, I don't want to hear your philosophy on what you think is competitive and what you don't think is competitive. Tell me why Ramirez was competitive. You got to listen to me because you're tuning into my show. Yes, that's right. So I'm asking you, how was Ramirez competitive?
Well, I'm not going to go any further down the rabbit hole with you. Competitive is subjective.
I'm asking how was, in your opinion, Ramirez competitive last night?
Yeah, what did Ramirez do to make those?
What did he do that impressed you?
I've already told you how.
Tell me again.
Went the distance. The guy was never off his feet. The guy was throwing punches the whole fight. He was losing the rounds. It was clear Morell was a better fighter.
He was
winning the rounds.
If
it was non-competitive, it would have went 3 rounds and he would have stopped them, and that would have been that. You see, kind of like you predicted Golovkin would get done by Canelo.
He's still on that.
That didn't happen.
No, but he just about did because it was a one-sided fight, Jerry. See what I'm saying? It was a one-sided fight.
Well, it was numerically one-sided. No argument there. The decision was a wide decision.
So,
but again, we come back to the subjective nature of the.
So you thought he was competitive. Let me understand this. Let me understand this. So you thought Ramirez was competitive because he got in the ring, he didn't leave his feet, and he was throwing punches. Stop it. Stop it. Are we really? That's your argument?
There's no argument. That's my opinion.
Really? That's your argument. That's what you're telling me. That's what we're talking about. I said he's not competitive. You said he was competitive.
Jerry, let me ask you this. What were some of the things that Ramirez? Jerry, hold up. What were some of the things that Ramirez did last night that you were impressed by? What do you think he did that made him competitive in this fight? What were some of the things that you liked that he did against Beval?
Well, first off, he was obviously durable. You see, when you're a non-competitor, you're not durable. You get your ass whipped and you get taken right out. So the first thing is to be durable, which he was. Secondly, his punch output wasn't what his opponent's was, but his will to fight and to compete was strong throughout the fight. He was doing the best that he could. It clearly wasn't good enough, but you never seen him backing up, running, or trying his best to get out of the fight, you see? This is the nature of being competitive. Just like when Mayweather would fight Cotto, Mosley, all those guys. He beat them wide, but every time he would say, these guys are great competitors, because he knew that he had to go the distance.
Wait a minute.
By your logic, though, Jerry, by your logic, can you give me a fight that wasn't competitive?
Certainly. That's ridiculous. Like I told you.
I think your opinion is ridiculous on this was a competitive fight.
I know what he's saying, Eric.
I know what he's saying.
I know what he's saying. Please explain it to me because I don't get it.
I know what he's saying. And I'm actually going to respect his opinion on this one. What he is saying is, if someone shows the ability to compete, right? They're not giving up, they're trying, and they're taking everything that's being thrown at them. In essence, they are showing a willingness to compete and they're not giving up. So in that regard, he's saying that Ramirez, on the sheer fact that he was trying to compete and kept trying and didn't give up.
See, I disagree with that. I think he did check out in that fight.
He's using that as the fighter being competitive. He's using it as a mentality
it's
type
not
thing.
just that. It's not just that. It's that, and also he didn't get stopped, or he wasn't like he was getting knocked down and beat from pillar to post and concussed in each round and getting his ass totally whipped.
So if the guy goes the distance, it was competitive?
Again,
can I ask you this,
did
Jerry?
you not just hear what I just said?
What you're saying doesn't make a lot of sense. I got to be honest with you.
Jerry, can I ask you this? Can I ask you this?
Well, let me make it simple for you. Let me make it simple for you.
That's the only language you speak.
A fight can be numerically dominated by one fighter and still be competitive. There.
Because the other just for the sheer fact that the other guy is still competing is what you're saying, right?
Well, you want to minimalize what I'm saying, and I keep elaborating on exactly
because
what
it's not worth maximizing.
You want to kind of box it. You want to box it in this minimal way to try to like corner my argument like it's non-substantial.
I'm not attacking you. I'm not
going to fall for that. I've explained to you what.
I'm not criticizing you. I'm again. You're acting as if you're acting defensive. I said
minimalize, not criticize. Minimalize.
He's trying to help you.
I'm trying to learn.
Think so I know you don't understand it. Trust me, he's trying. Trust me, you do. Trust me, you do.
I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn and understand your side of. I'm trying to learn and understand what you're saying.
Well, you're getting a better understanding than your partner. He's thick. He can't understand no matter how much I elaborate. Maybe he should just say, I disagree. And I'd say, okay, well, we disagree. But I can't explain him too much better than what I already had.
So as long as they go the distance, fight's competitive.
You know what we're going to do
Even
here,
if it's a statistical whitewash, the fight was competitive as long as he goes the distance. I'm going to
ask you one.
There's the minimalization argument.
Jerry. I'm going to ask you one last
question. To minimalize what I've explained.
Jerry, let's try this. I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we'll move on from this because we all three of us have philosophical differences here, and we're not going to meet common ground. And that's understood. We're going to have to just agree to disagree on this one. Have you ever watched a fight where someone did not get hurt or knocked down or knocked out, and say to yourself at the end of that fight that this fight was not competitive?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So we're going to move on from this.
You want to know what the distinction is?
No,
sure,
not really.
Tell me.
What's that?
Tell me, Jerry. Go ahead.
Yeah, in that case, fighter A wins most of the rounds, 9 rounds out of 12, let's say. But fighter B is getting knocked down throughout the fight. He's being wobbled. He's being beat to a pulp. And the fight's one-sided. Now, typically, those fights don't go to the distance, but typically they get stopped. But I've been watching boxing a long time. I've seen plenty of fights that were one-sided where the guy wasn't just losing on a competitive level. He was getting beat silly throughout the fight. And there is a key distinction between a fight that's numerically dominated by one fighter that isn't competitive. Since you want more elaboration.
Well, if you had good points, you wouldn't need to elaborate them, Jerry.
No, let's let them go because
you can't understand shit.
Because you're not explaining it well.
But minimal box. You need minimal fundamental things.
You need a communication class.
When I elaborate,
Jerry,
elaborate and explain, you say you don't understand.
Because you're not doing a good job.
Jerry, I understand your point of view. I respectfully disagree with a lot of the things you're saying, but you have a right.
99% of it.
You have a right to say what you're saying. Okay, let's move on from this topic. Let's talk about the fights this week. What did you think of them? Go ahead.
I thought they were great fights, and I thought the Morell fight was a great fight. He's got a ton of talent. I wouldn't put him in with Benavidez right now, too soon, but he possibly could compete and maybe even beat Benavidez. But I'd give him another 3 or 4 fights, and even then, he's only got 10 or 11 fights, and then push him towards the bigger fight. The Beval fight, what can you say? Beval is an example of a fighter that I've seen a bunch of times that was way better than anyone knew he was. He just didn't get the chances. He didn't get the promotional push and opportunity. And now he has, starting with Canelo, that fight last night. And he's showing that, you know, while we might have all thought that he was pretty good, he's actually better than what most people even thought that he was. Against Bibrev, I think that's a good fight. I'd probably favor Beval, but Bibrev's got that hammer. And so I don't ever get too far off on any fighter, no matter their performance, to not know from watching boxing what can happen in the next fight. So while I would favor Beval against Bibrev, I wouldn't say there's no way he couldn't beat him, or no way, or make some ridiculous overstatement. Bibrev is a big puncher, and if he catches Beval, things could be totally lopsided, knockout. So regardless of what Beval did last night or against Canelo, that's a different fight, a different opponent. And like I say, I favor Beval, and that's that on that. Other than that, the only other fight that I've seen between the Morell fight, the undercard fights were good fights too on that PBC card. But I did see the Jake Paul fight, and I have to say that I don't hate that kid. He's working hard. He's taking himself real seriously. And each time I see him, he gets a little bit better. And he seems to have a fighter spirit, because I've seen him take big punches to where he easily could have said, you know, screw this. This ain't for me. I'm out of here. And he doesn't do it. He gets a little bit better each time. He may never be a world-class fighter on par with the other guys. He obviously got a late start, but I can't hate on him. He had a big crowd in there, and in a backhanded way, I think he's good for boxing.
Look at that. Jerry, you just redeemed yourself. You went from zero to hero. I've been telling everybody Jake Paul's from Titletown, baby. I know you know that. Jerry just redeemed himself with that comment right there. That was perfect. Perfect. Jerry, we're going to get running.
Well, I don't know if you pay it.
We're going to get running.
Yeah.
We got other calls, man. Thank you so much for calling in. There you
Jerry,
go.
Jerry, thank you for your attention and patience.
Beeb, you were very good. I got to be honest with you. You were very good right there. You told me before we came on the show, because I know Jerry got under your skin last week because you were talking about it quite a bit. But I got to give you props, my man. You stayed very calm there. Even asked him his opinion, even when he was babbling and didn't make any sense. You stayed the course.
But once again, this is what's great. Waking up every day in the skin of Joe Habib.
Yes.
Every day is a learning experience. I looked back on the show last week. I watched it 10 times and I laughed my ass off every time I watched it. But if I'm being objective and realistic, it was a very unproductive conversation. And this week I wanted to get a productive conversation. I wanted to understand Jerry this week. I wanted to empathize with Jerry. I wanted to be open-minded with everything Jerry was saying.
Sure.
And I didn't want to come off as condescending, and I didn't want to discredit what he had to say. I think he has a right to his own opinion.
And I will tell you this. I think last week when he hung up, I got to be honest, sounded a little bit scared of you. So I don't think he wanted any more of the Beeb. I got to be honest. That's why he came after me. Now that blew up in his face. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he does now.
I went to Publix and the register.
Fine store, by the way.
The kid at the register was probably about 13 years old. He was giving me the side eye. I ran out of there, man. So believe me, I'm not an intimidating guy.
There you go. Neither am I. I tell you that right now. Not at all. Neither one of us, Beeb, have an intimidating bone in our body.
All right.
There you go. All right. Robert is out there somewhere. Let's see if we can fish him out of this madness. 530, you're live.
Hello, guys.
Robert, how are you?
Hello, guys. How are you?
How do you feel being demoted to caller number 2 now? You used to be caller number 1 every week. Now Eric decides to demote you to caller number 2. Again, this was not my decision. This was solely an Eric Lorda decision. I did not make this decision.
Robert, this was definitely not a demotion. This was definitely not a demotion. If anything, it's a promotion because we're putting somebody else on to open for you as the main event.
That's right. Well, I was beginning to wonder whether I wanted to follow the argument because I wasn't quite sure.
It's an easy argument to
going.
follow, though. I will be honest with you. It's not like he tore it up.
Yes, it is.
Do you agree with Jerry's argument? Do you agree with Jerry's argument, Robert?
No, I do not. No, I do
Put
not.
a poll up, see if anybody agreed with it.
I don't. Look, I picked Zurdo, and of course, I was very disappointed with
Did
his
you call him
performance
Zurdo?
yesterday.
Did you call him Zurdo?
He said
Did you call
Zurdo.
him-
I
He
called
said
him
That would have been
Zurdo,
great
yes.
otherwise.
I thought you called him Zurdo.
No, Zurdo. I picked Zurdo. I thought he had a good chance of winning, but I mean, my God, that was a 10-2 fight if I've ever seen a 10-2 fight. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Ramirez's game plan was, but I think Eric hit the nail on the head. It was in the third round when he got hit with that one combination.
Here we go.
He
Kissing
backed
Eric's
off
mouth.
after that and said to himself, you know what? I don't know if I want any more of this.
Oh, come on.
And basically played it safe throughout the rest of the fight. Very, very disappointing.
So let me ask you this, Robbie.
But,
Bivol versus Better Beef.
okay.
What do you like? Bivol versus Better Beef. What do you like?
I like Beval.
Oh, you front runner.
And you know what? And you know what? I don't know. And you know what? I don't know if I would have said that before yesterday.
You front runner.
You know, I don't know. But, and you know what? I like Eric's plan for B-ball, and I hope he pulls it off. I hope he goes down to 168, challenges Canelo, wins all of those belts, goes back up to 175, and collects those belts. I mean, that would make him the best boxer, period. And nobody else could argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, who touches him at that point? Nobody, right? I mean, that's got to be anybody's definition of pound for pound. Nobody's touching that guy.
And you know what? He could go into the Hall of Fame tomorrow, and nobody could argue with his resume after that. You do those two things, I'd like to see somebody argue that. I really would.
That's it.
I really would. And you know what? I've always liked B-Ball, but I never thought that he would be able to go in and beat Canelo the way that he did, and then turn around and beat one of the top guys in light heavyweight, who by the way, doesn't look like he's a light heavyweight. He looks like he belongs in the heavyweight division. I mean, Zurdo came in there so big yesterday, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, if he hits him, B-Ball may never get up, you know, because of the size difference. I was absolutely impressed with what he was able to do yesterday, considering that Ramirez came in so much bigger than he did. I mean, that's impressive in itself. And I hope B-Ball does both of those things. I hope he challenges Canelo for those belts, and I hope he goes up and challenges Better Beef for the rest of the light heavyweight belts. That, as a boxing fan, I would look forward to both of those fights. But I don't know what you do with Zurdo Ramirez. He looks like he's too big for light heavyweight. Do you move him up to cruiser, or what do you do with him?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know what you do with him now. I mean, listen, he couldn't handle the punching power of Beval yesterday. And Beval hurt him quite a bit yesterday. I really think that. I mean, he did not come forward, and it wasn't because of Beval's footwork or anything like that. It's because he got popped. Robert, let me ask you a question. Did you think yesterday's fight was competitive?
No, absolutely not. That's why I said I scored a 10-2 yesterday, and there's no way it was competitive. No, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know how anybody can say a 10-2 scorecard or a 9-3 scorecard is competitive. And let me comment on the Canelo Triple G thing. Those two judges that scored at 7-5, they were rooting for Triple G. I mean, that's the only explanation I can give, because that was not a 7-5 fight. I'm sorry.
Robbie. These are serious allegations you're throwing out there.
Well,
be careful.
Yeah,
I mean, People can take this
I
recording and use it as evidence in court now, because this is a serious defamation that you're doing right now against Triple G, and you've been doing it for a long time now.
Let me jump in here, guys,
Well-
real quick. Let me jump in here. Thank you so much, D-Style Boxing. He's dropped a couple of these throughout the show. I appreciate it. We couldn't get to them because we're back and forth with conversation, but thank you so much, D-Style. Always supports the show. Go check out the roundtable on his channel, D-Style Boxing. He's awesome. Thank you so much, brother. Robert, go ahead.
And everybody hit the like button, by the way. Come on, let's get those likes. Everybody in the chat, hit the motherfucking like button.
How you gonna argue with that?
That was not a competitive fight yesterday. I'm sorry. I've watched boxing for over 50 years, and I know what a 10-2 fight looks like. I know what a 9-3 fight looks like.
50 years card out, man. Everyone's pulling rank on the amount of, like, what do you guys want? One guy last week says, I've been watching boxing for 40 years. You say you've been watching 50 years. What do you want? You guys want like fucking gold watches and stuff?
Right.
Jesus
I don't want to
Christ,
let you know how long I've been watching boxing, man. That really dates you,
I'm
you know.
actually embarrassed to tell you how long I've been watching this sport.
I know,
you know what?
right?
It makes me look and sound dated. I don't want people to know how long I've been watching this sport. What do you want? A fucking
what can I say?
Give you a couple dozen donuts for your doubles? Jesus.
All right, guys. Anyway, and David Morell looked good. David Morell looked good, by the way, last night. Although, and Reeve, you're right. He is beating the guys he's supposed to beat, but he's only 8-0. I don't know how fast you want to move him. They've been putting him in with decent opponents, but how fast do you want to step up his level? I realize he's a Cuban. He comes from the Cuban school of boxing, and Lomachenko kind of changed things by winning a title in his third fight. I realize we can't look at fighters' records the same anymore, but I mean, how fast do you want to move him up in the rankings? He's only had 8 fights, but 7 of them have been knockouts.
There you go. All right, Robert. We're gonna get moving here.
Okay, see ya.
I'll keep you on the line. 608. Is this Wisconsin? Maybe 608. You're live.
Hi, you hear me?
Yes. Who am I speaking to?
Hello?
Yes.
Joe from I didn't see the fight, but I like to. I think I can expand on the point about how a one-sided fight can be competitive, because I was just thinking back to, I remember I was watching Meldrick Taylor versus John Meekins, and every round I'd say it was about a 12, probably 12-0, 10-2 fight. But Meldrick Taylor would like slightly edge out the round. Again, I didn't see the fight last night. But
okay. Can I jump in?
Round.
Can I jump in just 2 seconds here real quick?
Sure.
Did you think the fight last night was competitive with Beval and Ramirez?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Okay, you didn't see it. Okay.
I didn't see the fight last night.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, but like something like that, like I would consider Pacquiao Margarito competitive, even though it was a one-sided fight. Like because the danger was there, like Margarito was getting body shots in there here and there. But I mean, I guess I didn't see the fight, but I think maybe that's what Jerry was saying. I guess about like how you could see a one-side, like a 12, like even like Floyd Canelo. I thought like it was probably a 9-3 fight or 10-2, but that fight was a lot of feinting, a lot of missed punches, and Floyd probably won majority of the rounds by like 1 or 2 big shots or like clean shots to edge out the round.
All right, but
So,
the point was obviously I understand what he's saying, and we've all had fights like that. We've all seen fights like that where it was a wide score, but it was a little bit closer than what you would think. We've all seen fights like that. However, the Triple G Canelo 3 fight to me was not close. The fight last night was not close. It was not competitive, and I didn't think that Triple G fight was that competitive either. And I think that's what we're kind of referring to.
But I think this, even if you're nicking 9 rounds, you're still winning 9 rounds. You're winning the majority. Like you're winning
right.
You're winning like 80% of almost 80% of the fight. So it's still
Right.
a one-sided fight, regardless if the rounds are competitive or not. You've lost 9 rounds. So
Oh
statistically,
yeah, I totally
still
agree
not
with
a
that.
yeah.
Well,
I think in today's day and age, we're looking for participation trophies to just hand out to everybody. We're rewarding guys just for trying hard. And that's a
Right.
bad message to send the kids.
Yeah.
That's
Listen,
a bad message to
just
send the
because you were
kids.
trying does not make the fight competitive. Just doesn't.
I totally agree. I'm just saying I totally agree with all that. I'm just saying there's fights where like they can win majority every round, but if he just if they just slightly edit the round every single round.
But you're still winning 9 of them.
Still winning
That's
9 rounds.
still-
Yeah. If a
still
football game is 52-7,
Right.
if a football game is 52-7, we would all agree that that game wasn't close. But the other team was trying. I can't say that the team wasn't trying.
That's like saying that Steph Curry hit.
Okay, what about?
Let me just finish. That's like saying Steph Curry hit 10 3-pointers in one game, but you see the defense? They had a hand in his face each and every time. That was a competitive a game. Even though he hit 10 3-pointers and they won by 30 points, they were trying so hard. They were up in his face. Yeah, but they still got blown out. He hit 10 3-pointers, even with the hand in his face. He still hit the 3-pointers.
They were challenging. They were being competitive. I get that, but it wasn't competitive.
Yeah. I
Just
agree.
because
I agree.
just
I don't
because
watch
you're
another sport,
competing,
so I
just because you have a strong willingness to compete does not mean you're competitive. You don't get a participation trophy for trying hard and not giving up. You'll get a pat on the back, and you'll get a pat on the back and a handshake and a hug, but you're not going to get extra money in your check for doing that.
I agree, but I don't think anybody's saying. Like I said, I didn't see the fight last night. I guess what I was saying was, I'm just using Canelo and Floyd. That's the best way I can use an example.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way anybody could say, "Oh, Canelo deserved that fight." No, of course, Floyd won. But I'm just saying, if you slightly edge out around, it was still clearly. There's no way you could give it to Canelo, but it wasn't a beatdown either. You know what I'm saying? Where he's.
You shouldn't have to dominate a round to get credit for winning it either.
Right.
That's the thing.
Very true.
Okay. Yeah,
Very true.
I agree.
Hey, if you didn't see that fight last night, I would recommend you go back and watch it, man. I really would. Because Beval looked great last night. He really did. I had Zurdo winning the fight. I didn't score it, but I picked him to win that fight. But Beval did great, man.
Yeah, Beval. I'm a Beval fan. I just missed it because I was at a wedding, and I'm gonna watch it later tonight. But I was hoping he'd win because I was tired of hearing like how he was ducking this guy. Like I want to see Beval. Then I started hearing people would really change. I didn't see how people thought Ramirez would win. I think he was too slow to be. That's why I wasn't surprised that I heard that he won pretty easy actually. But yeah, I was just saying how that guy with Jerry. I mean, like I said, like I was just using the example of Melder Taylor Meekins. Like Melder Taylor got beat up in the fight, but he won every round.
Yeah.
I guess that's what he was trying to say, but I don't know.
Maybe, but he failed miserably. That's okay.
It was Melder Taylor versus John Meekins. It was like, yeah, Melder Taylor won every round, but he also got his ass kicked in the fight.
Right.
So, I mean, like he edged out every round. But yeah, I guess I'm just trying to.
Gotcha, brother. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, we're going to get running, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right, man.
Great show, guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Let's see here. 915, you're live.
Batista?
What's going on? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Cool. This whole look, people are playing semantics with this competitive thing. Look, we already understand that it's not a mismatch, and these guys belong in the ring with each other. Like we already know that. We already know, like that's always scored 10-9. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're only gaining 1 point over the opponent because you're competing in the ring with them, right? That's why it's 10-9. That's why, like, technically, if you really dominate a round, you could do a 10-8. But we already know this. I just don't understand what this whole oh, it's competitive. And I agree with B. People just want to give a participation trophy. Like, who gives a shit if you feel like if everyone agrees that a guy won a round, it's not close. It's only a close round if people are actually debating with one another on who won a round. That's what makes a round close, okay? Boxing and all professional sports at a high level, all of them it's all about milliseconds. It's all about that one fraction of a second of timing. It's about being perfect with your timing and all that. It's already close. Like, we already know this. However, the guy that's constantly getting the better of the other dude is clearly winning the fight. In other sports, if a guy could be 1 inch away from blocking the basketball, just 1 inch, but guess what? If the basket goes in, it goes in, right? I just don't understand this argument. It's frustrating listening to this shit, all right? If you lose 10 rounds, you lost 10 rounds, point blank, period. Like, no one can argue more than 3 rounds, in my opinion, for Zurdo. Nobody. Just because he showed heart, because he has a heart of a lion, and he's a good person, and he had determination, and all boxers have this already. You don't just get credit for that. That's not how it works, all right? So I just wanted to say that, and I also wanted to say that Bivol is a special fighter, and people need to realize this. He's been undervalued, and I remember thinking to myself, he could be that guy, kind of like Sergio Martinez was, under the radar, and then boom, he just kind of, everyone sees how good he is. And I think he beat Beterbiev. I would favor him to win that fight. It's not an easy fight, but I would favor him to win that fight, and that one will be close. You know why? Because I think Beterbiev would at least win 4 or 5 rounds in that fight. That's why I think it will be competitive, and he'll be an actual danger in the ring to Bivol. But I think Bivol will rise to that occasion, and I don't think we've even seen him have to get to that second, third gear yet. I think Beterbiev will force him to do that, and I think we will see the best of Bivol. I think it's going to be a great fight. In my opinion, it's probably the best all-Russian fight in the history of boxing. You know what I mean? So I think it's a big deal. It's a fight I want to see. And if I'm Canelo, bro, I'm chill. If I'm Canelo, I fight somebody else. Let Bivol fight Beterbiev. And if you're going to take that risk again in a rematch, well, at least do it for all the belts. You know, that's what I would do if I'm Canelo. And maybe Beterbiev, softens them up a little bit for you. So if I'm Canelo, that's what I do. Let him fight Beterbiev. He might have a war with them, and then I could fight him after that for all the belts. But that's all I got.
All right, D-Style. Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Good points. It's got good points, man. I get it. Chicago, 773. I believe it's Chicago. 773, you're live.
Oh, no.
Dmitry Bivol. The best fighter I've ever seen. Pound for pound, best fighter I've ever laid eyes on. Don't get no better, boy.
He's good.
You don't play that. You don't play that. Bivol. Yeah. It's exciting. Bivol first. Beaver. What did Jerry call him? He called him Beaver. Beterbiev. That's going to be a good one. I'll tell you right now, don't count out Beterbiev either, because he's a beast in his own right. So I remember people saying the same thing about Gaznik when he fought Gaznik. Oh, this is a pick-em. These are both undefeated champions, and he went in there and destroyed him. So I'll tell you right now, for me, this is the best fight they can make in boxing. Better than Fury Usyk, better than Spence Crawford. To me, that is the best fight in boxing. Beterbiev versus Bivol. And right now, I put Bivol in pound for pound. I put both of them in pound for pound. Beterbiev and Bivol, they're both in the top 10. Where you could pick another and they justify it. They're right up there with any of them. but I will say this: Beval versus Serbia. Now, remember Serbia? They're counting that fight out versus Gosdick. Gosdick was he was a man. I think Serbia went in there as an underdog. And what happened? Serbia went in there and retired him. And that was coming off of a Gosdick put in what's his name in a coma. Sent him to the hospital, retiring Stevenson. So these dudes are big power punchers, and you can't count out either of them. What you guys thought? You guys do anything? Out and have a good day.
All right, man. Thank you so much, Kevin. Perfect. All right, we're going to go all the way across country for this next call, Beeb. This guy's calling in from Portland, Oregon. 971, you're live.
Oh, howdy. Hey. Is that me?
Yes, that's you.
Can you hear me?
Doing?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, cool. I just wanted to call in. I wanted to say the reason why Beval's so good is he uses the whipping left. It ain't been used in I mean, Tyson was the last one to use it, but he only had it like halfway. He would use it to kind of shift. But they didn't call it this back then, but it's kind of like a front foot jab. And that's why he can shift to his rear foot so fast and cross the line like that. Canelo actually picked it up, and that's why G versus Canelo was it looked a little different. Both of them had it kind of halfway. But man, it's the difference, man. It's like a scant few in all of the 100 years of film that had it. There were a lot of guys that had it because it used to be taught as like the traditional jab, but it is the difference maker, man. He's using it about as good as it ever was. You care to hear the best? I got a short list of guys that y'all ain't heard of.
Okay.
Charlie Burley. Ray Robinson visited 49 states, and when it was time to go to California, where there's this group of guys called the Black Murderers Row. They weren't allowed to challenge for the title from 15 to 30 or so. Mm-hmm. And the best of them lived in California. When it was time for Ray to go to California, he went to Europe for 20 years instead, or however long he went. And in California was Charlie Burley. And he was almost, I might be wrong, he was almost 50 years old. And his students followed him to Europe. Lloyd Marshall knocked out LaMotta. Just out. Whenever the champion would lose his belt or the number one contender would get beat, they would go down and try and fight one of these guys, the Black Murderers Row. And they would just be made to look silly. They would just look really dumb. They would just get knocked out. And Lloyd Marshall, a bunch of these guys followed him to Europe trying to get this fight. And Charlie Burley, he was almost 50 years old. Ray Robinson was asked by a reporter in his prime. He was asked, "Will you ever fight Charlie Burley?" And Ray laughed and said, "You ain't my friend, now are you?" Charlie Burley, only one fight of him survived. Only one fight of him survived. It's on YouTube. It's him versus Oakland Billy Smith.
I got to check it out.
Burley versus Oakland Billy Smith.
All right. Good
deal.
It's
beautiful.
All right, man. Well, we'll check it out.
It took me months to finish it. It's like a book. I'm going to drop my list in the chat.
Yes,
feel free to save it, guys.
Absolutely.
And yeah, the whipping left. Have a good stream, guys. Thanks.
All right, man.
Bye.
Thanks. All right. 805. 805, you're live.
Corey?
No.
Hey, guys. Man, that whole interaction with Jerry, please don't ever do that again. My God, it felt like I lost like 30 minutes of my life.
It was brutal.
Listening to you guys arguing with this guy. Yeah, it was brutal.
You know what it's like? It's like trying to explain.
Brutal.
You know what it's like? It's like trying to explain physics to a wino. You know what I mean? It ain't going to work, man. You know, some things he's going to get. Some things is just going to be way over his
hilarious.
head.
I never heard that before.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That
got the guy some slack.
That guy had no. His idea of quote unquote competitive was asinine. That made absolutely no sense. Like, how does someone getting beat up or losing almost all of the rounds, how does that make them competitive? Because they
Leave
didn't get
Jerry
stopped, they didn't get
alone.
dropped, and they were still in the fight.
Leave the
Like,
guy alone.
my
He has his
God,
own
that was
opinion,
just
man.
awful.
He has his own opinion. Let him have his
Hey,
own
Beef,
opinion.
and I have a right to criticize that opinion, and that's what I did right now. So
No,
anyway,
you're
I'm gonna touch on the fight.
You're being very, very obtuse here. Come on.
Oh, stop it, Beeb.
No need.
What's the matter with you?
There's no need for that,
Come
man.
on, Beef.
There's no
Beef,
need for that.
please. Beef, please. So,
Okay, go ahead.
the Zurdo Bivol fight, Bivol just beat him easily. Like, to me, I never
Competitive,
understood
wasn't it,
what the
Nacho? Do you
hell
think that was
the
competitive?
strategy. Yeah.
Competitive fight,
According to Jerry, it was. Yeah, exactly. According to Jerry's definition, it was. But my God, I don't understood what the hell his corner was doing. Like, the game plan they came with was completely wrong. The only way you were going to beat the guy is you literally had to go in there and walk through fire and eat some shots and rough him up. You're not going to outbox a guy like Beval. I'm sorry. And that's what it felt like his corner was like trying to tell him to do. It was like he was standing in mid-range or outside, and he was trying to jab with him and throw, shots from the outside. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're not going to beat this guy trying to outbox him. He's too good.
Nacho,
You're literally falling for his trap.
Nacho, remember this line? Remember this line
Yeah.
in the 12th round? That man across the ring stands between you and immortality.
Didn't tell him how to win. Didn't tell him what to do. Didn't tell him step to the left, use your jab. Didn't tell him anything. Just trying to gas him up.
What is
He's got
this?
nothing, man.
Yeah.
What am I watching? The Infinity War? The Infinity War here? What the fuck is this? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Good
that was
Lord.
just awful. Awful.
Terrible.
And he got whooped on, and now he's gonna have to go on back to the drawing board and then see what they do as far as like for another fight with Beval. I mean, I hope we get the Beterbiev fight after Beterbiev fights Anthony Yard, and then we can finally see who the best at 175 is. With the man, I wanted to talk about real quick about the Rockhamo Zelfa Barrett fight. I've never seen a guy take the lead, like sprint out to a lead, and then be coasting through the majority of the fight, and then all of a sudden the wheels just fall off like they did for Barrett, and that Rockhamo was able to start touching him up and hitting him and beating him up, and then eventually just bludgeoned him at the very end and knocked him out. That was a hell of a comeback by Rockhamo, because if Barrett had been able to make it to the end of the fight, he wins that fight easy. He was so far ahead, in my opinion, that there was no way he was going to lose as long as he made it to the 12th round. But Rockhamo just beat the hell out of him as the fight went on, and then just stopped him and bludgeoned him. That was a hell of a fight. At this point, I don't even think Cordina, who's the mandatory next guy to face him, I don't think Cordina beats him. I think Rockhamo beats him too. So I think he's going to end up probably holding on to that belt for sure. With the Showtime card, guys, that fight in the main event with Morell, and I can't even pronounce the other guy's name.
Your boss so
damn long.
Isn't that your boss or something like that?
Yeah, your boss Yeah, your boss I don't understand what the hell his corner was doing. That fight was over pretty much from the 7th round on. They just let that poor guy get beat the hell up. He was holding on for dear life. Tony Weeks took a point away. Like, my God, like, it makes absolutely no sense that his corner let that guy keep going out round after round, just getting teed off on by Morell. He was not making any kind of progress. He was just getting beat up. And they might have just shortened his career with that beating he just took last night. That guy might never be the same after that whooping that Morell put on him. Like, that was brutal to watch, to see him just get bludgeoned the way he did, and them just stand there and just keep sending that poor guy out there.
Yeah,
your boss might never be the same again.
Yeah, he took a beating.
He got beat up real bad.
Yeah.
And then the Rosario Mendoza fight. I thought this was set up for Rosario to win and look good. But all the credit to Mendoza. He's just a guy, but he went in there and he took out Rosario. and he did it in spectacular fashion. It's a good thing that Rosario's made the decision to walk away because, man, I would hate to see him keep getting laid out the way he got laid out last night. That was a tough way to lose that fight. I mean, that was a nasty uppercut he ate, and he tried to get up, but he was just completely discombobulated after he ate that shot trying to get up. And it's a good thing that either someone talked him into it or maybe he just came to the realization he's not the same guy anymore and he's walking away. That's a good thing for him. But do you guys think that this fight for Mendoza, do you think it makes him a player, or is this just a name on his record moving forward?
No, I think it's definitely, I mean, what he definitely gets him a bigger fight coming up. You know what I mean? Anytime you beat a former champ like that, especially as a late replacement, he's going to get a bigger fight. Now, what he does in that bigger fight, who knows? But he's definitely earned his shot to get another fight, to get a bigger money fight than he had, and just, time to train for it. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. That was my call.
All right, Nacho. Thank you so much, sir. All right, let's get to the, let's see here. What do we got? Let's get to the schedule for next week. Not a whole lot going on here. November 12th in Sheffield, England, Sonny Edwards versus Felix Alvarado for Edwards' IBF flyweight title. Beeb, there's no TV on this listed. So, guys, just keep checking checking the schedules. I'm sure it'll be on. I mean, you'll catch it on YouTube, but I'm sure it'll be on a channel. It's either going to be on ESPN or DAZN, I would imagine. Also on November 12th on ESPN+, Janabek Alimkhanuly versus Denzel Bentley, 12 rounds for Alimkhanuly's WBO middleweight title. And if you haven't seen Janabek fight, he's really, really good. He is must-see TV. Ciencia Estrada versus Jasmine on the undercard here. Ciencia Estrada versus Jasmine Gala Villarino, 10 rounds for Estrada's WBA women's strawweight title. They will fight 20 minutes and then claim someone as a champion. November 12th on DAZN. Now, this is the fight of the weekend, no question. Montana Love on DAZN versus Stevie Spark, 12 rounds, junior welterweights. Hey, Beeb, did I mention where Montana Love is from?
Ohio.
Titletown, baby. That's right. We got the Buckeyes, the Browns, the Bengals. I mean, we got Montana Love, AB, Black Prime. What else do we need to make you guys believers, man? What else do we need? On DAZN also, on November 12th, Natasha Jones versus Marie-Eve Decare, 10 rounds for Jonas's WB. Who cares? The undercard is not really worth mentioning. There's not really much on there. And that's it for next week. So there you go. All right. Any big news this week, Beeb? Caleb Plant and David Benavidez have apparently signed. They've agreed to this, and they've signed contracts or whatever. Now, when it's going to take place, nobody knows. Where it's going to take place, nobody knows. But the two have agreed to fight each other, which is good enough for me. So there you go. Kadiele Bodiyang, he says, Eric, what's your opinion about Justin McCaskill? I really don't have one. I got to be honest. I don't have one. I'm not a big women's boxing guy. It is. Some people like women's soccer. Some people like women's tennis. Some people don't like those sports. I happen to just not really care for women's boxing. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be straight up. Even if they went to 3 minutes in 12 rounds, I probably still wouldn't be interested in it. I got to be honest. Just man. Beeb, you like women's boxing?
Yeah, I do.
You liar. You're such a liar, son. You sit there and trash it every time before we come on the air. You sit there and you trash it,
Never.
And then all of a sudden,
Never. That's blasphemous.
How dare you?
I love women.
Did she win this weekend? And she fought this weekend, right?
Oh, she lost. She didn't look good at all, man.
She got knocked out?
No, she lost.
Yeah, nobody gets knocked out in women's boxing, do they? Because it's only 2 minutes. I mean, they could survive 2 minutes, right?
She lost by a wide margin. She didn't look good at all.
But was the fight competitive, though?
No.
Would Jerry think the fight was competitive?
No comment.
I'm just asking. I'm asking questions. I'm asking questions, man. What are you going to do? All right. The Errol Spence, as everybody knows too, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford fell apart. So you're not going to be getting that fight anytime soon. Beeb, you know that the Avanesian fight is on pay-per-view. Did you know Regis Prograis, he's going to fight Zepeda? That's going to be on pay-per-view? That's on pay-per-view.
You sure that's on pay-per-view?
I'm positive it's on pay-per-view. Yes.
Top rank pay-per-view?
Let me see here. Yeah, well, I don't know who it's for, but it just says Carson, November 26th, pay-per-view, Regis Prograis, Jose Zepeda.
Really?
That's on pay-per-view, son. How about that?
I thought that was on ESPN.
Yeah. Nobody wants to pick it up.
Wow.
Nobody wants to pick it up.
That's what's the date on that? November 26th?
26th, yeah, the 26th. Yeah. How about that? It's crazy, right?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing that's on that. Wow.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly. That's what I said too. I couldn't believe it because I'm looking at it in the Errol Spence fight that would have been on pay-per-view, but I know that the Crawford fight's going to be on pay-per-view. Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence's next fight's going to be on pay-per-view. Whoever he fights.
Oh, is that on Fight TV pay-per-view?
I believe so. Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Let me see. Event schedule.
I told you I just read it, man.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Crazy, right?
Let me see if I can see it on their schedule. Yeah, that's on Fight TV. Guess what? Guess how much it's
right.
Guess how much it costs?
50?
$59.99.
59. Stop it.
Oh my God.
Do they have an app that goes on TV too? I don't know if they do or not. I would imagine they do.
I think you would have to. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because you could I'm sure you could download it on like a smart TV. I mean, I'd hate to just.
I'm not sure if you could do that, or if you have to Chromecast it or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow,
I don't know.
I gotta buy that.
I'm not buying that.
I'm
not buying that. I'm not buying the Black Prime one. I'm not buying any of them.
Oh my God.
They're not pay-per-view worthy fights, man.
They're actually gonna put that on pay-per-view.
But at least the other one's got a good undercard, a fairly decent undercard, but nothing you'd pay for.
I'm amazed that they're putting that on pay-per-view.
Yeah. Dale in Chi-Town says that Fight TV does have an app for the TV. So, yeah, that's good.
Good.
There you go.
I don't know.
Yeah, right? All right, guys, that'll do it for this edition of Ringside Reporter. As always, you can catch Joe Habib on Twitter at JHabib1 and find our YouTube channel at ringsidereporterlive.com. You can find me on Twitter at ringside73. And, guys, we will see you next week.